Okay, this is a sound only audio review of Iron Man 2, which I just come from seeing. Right now it's 3:40 a.m. and I'm gonna read the plot off of, not the whole thing, off of Wikipedia, and then give my opinions of the movie fresh. So the movie starts off at the beginning with in Russia. Ivan Vanko's dad Anton is dying, and they're playing on the TV the last scene from Iron Man 1, where Tony Stark reveals himself as Iron Man. So we cut to 6 months later, and Tony Stark is having his Stark Expo in Flushing, New York, where I live. But I got a wrong, different concept of the expo. I was thinking it was like something where they were gonna show off like technologies like CES, if you're a nerd. But it's like for Stark to recruit people so they could work on building a better future. After that, he gets handed a subpoena to go to a Senate hearing where Senator Stern, played by Gary Shandling, wants Tony Stark to release the Iron Man weapon to the government. But Tony Stark says it's kind of like a prothesis. It's something that he needs, and that he and Iron Man are one. But then Justin Hammer, he comes to the defense of the state, and they show I think Stark. I didn't know what happened, but Stark hacked into the monitor that they were looking at and showed that other countries were developing Iron Man armor, or weapons like the Iron Man armor. Also, one of the plot points of the movie is that Stark finds out that the arc, there's some element in the arc reactor that's killing him. It's poisoning him slowly. I thought when it said blood level on the little monitor thing, I thought he was drinking, because supposedly part of this movie, at least before, it was supposed to be like the demon in a bottle story arc. But there is a scene later at his birthday party that he does get drunk, but that's not the only scene where he gets drunk. But so it looks like the an element in the arc reactor is killing him, and he's trying to find a way to get a cure. Since he knows he's dying, he makes Pepper Potts his CEO of the Stark Industries, and he turns, since he's the CEO, he decides to take Natalie Rushman, who is the Scarlet Witch, or the Black Widow, as his personal secretary. Then he decides to go down to Monaco to attend a race. He wasn't supposed to race, but since he's on I guess a bucket list thing, he knows he's gonna die, so he wants to do whatever he wants to do. He decides to drive the racing car, and Mickey Rourke shows up, and from the scene, from the trailer, he cuts Stark's racing car and destroys it, and then he's gonna kill Stark, but then Pepper and Happy show up with the Mark V armor, and they fight, and eventually he kicks Ivan Vanko's ass. Let me see. I forgot how he does it. Um, he takes the whips from Whiplash, and while Whiplash is whipping him, he grabs the whip, which is already curled around his body, and he wraps some more to get himself closer to Whiplash, and then he punches him. Then he takes out the arc reactor that Mickey Rourke had. After that, Ivan Vanko is put in jail, but Justin Hammer, who was at the Senate hearing and also in Monaco just to see the race, he decides to break Vanko out of jail and use him for his purposes, to create stuff for him, for Justin Hammer. The character of Justin Hammer is a wimp and a nerd. He's a loser. On he talks about, like, maybe I might get laid, and Vanko doesn't listen to him, so he's not man enough. I know that's the way they wanted to portray him, so I just laugh. It's like, poor guy, he's such a nerd, a loser. So what happens? Let me see. Stark has a birthday party, and he asked Natalie, who's his secretary now, what would she do if she was going to celebrate her last birthday, and she said that she would do whatever she wanted with whoever she wanted. So the next thing we see is Tony Stark in the Iron Man armor with a bottle of liquor, and DJ AM, who passed away a few years ago, at the party. So he's partying in the armor, which looks awkward, and Pepper wants to talk to him. She says, like, finish the party, but some girls start bringing out stuff and they want him to repulsor it, which is kind of dangerous. If you take a bottle of champagne, throw it up, have someone repulsor it, it's going to be raining glass. It's going to get in your eyes, it's going to get into your shoes, into your cleavage if you're a girl. So I was like, whoa, what the hell? They would bring out a watermelon. So James Rhodes shows up at the party, and he's like, stop. But Tony Stark is like, I don't care, I'm gonna have my party. So Rhodes goes down to the basement, gets the Mark II, and they have a fight in the building. At the end of the fight, Rhodes takes the Mark II with him, and he leaves. The next thing we see, Nick Fury shows up at the house. I think they had talked earlier. So he shows up at the house, and he mentions that Tony Stark's dad worked and helped found S.H.I.E.L.D., and that he knew that Tony would be able to, like, move humanity more into the future. So he gives Nick Fury gives Tony Stark a suitcase with some papers and stuff and some films of his dad made promoting the Stark Expo in 1974. So after looking, his dad left him like a secret message. After looking, he decides to go to the office, and he picks up a little model that was built for the Stark Expo. And if you think about it, at first I thought it was the plans for an arc reactor, the way the buildings were situated and stuff, but it was supposed to be a new element that he could create. Like, these buildings are an atom and this and that, so using the plans that his dad left in the little schematic, he creates the new arc reactor, the triangle one. So after that, I think let me see. We cut to the expo, and Justin Hammer, is gonna reveal his new technologies and stuff. He broke Ivan Vanko out of jail and has him working for him. So Vanko, instead of creating armor, he wanted to create drones. So at the expo, Hammer reveals his drones, which there's like a division for the Navy, one for the Air Force, one for the Marines, and one for the Army. And because they need people on the field, they have the War Machine armor, which was engineered from the Mark II that Rhodes took. But then at the expo, Tony Stark shows up in his Mark VI armor, and Vanko is at Hammer's office, and he overrides all the armor's AIs, and he sends everyone, even War Machine, after Iron Man. There's a big fight, not so cool special effects. Happy Hogan and Natalie go to Hammer's base in Queens to stop Vanko, but by the time they get there, Vanko escapes. So Natalie, the Black Widow, she reboots the War Machine's AI, the operating system, and Rhodey gets control of the War Machine. And then the drones catch up with Rhodey and with Stark, and they have that all-out battle in like a little park thingy, which is in the trailer. And after all the drones are defeated, with an extra powerful repulsor, I guess that's what the action figure that glows, that has a light in it, is based on. Vanko shows up in armor. Ta-da! I'm sure that now that everyone's seen the movie, or a lot of people have seen the movie, we're gonna get a new waves of action figures, which I hope there'll be some cool ones in there. So they fight, and they defeat Vanko. Vanko decides to set all the drones to self-destruct, and Pepper is standing right next to one. So Iron Man, I don't know how he knew she was next to one, but he shows up, he rescues her, and then they bicker a little, and they finally kiss. And War Machine is what he was there, so he saw them. And it was alright. It gave closure to the relationship, which for some reason throughout the whole movie it didn't look like they were a couple. But at the end of the first movie, they talked about their feelings, so I guess now they sealed the deal. And the movie ends with that, but you have to stay after the credits. If you're smart, like the first one had a bit at the end, this one hasn't. So the bit at the end of the credits is that the agent from S.H.I.E.L.D. from the first movie, he shows up in the desert, and there's a big hole there, and there's some people working on it, and they show Thor's hammer, and gang, the end. What did I like and what I didn't like? Now that I think about it, I think the fight between the War Machine and Iron Man and Vanko was really short. After they stopped him, I was like, that's it? And you should never take off your helmet if you're battling in armor, where there's lots of explosions and rockets. But in these superhero movies, they do that a lot. I guess it's to show the actor underneath portraying the character. So that was one thing I didn't like. Was too the final boss battle was too short. Um, what I did like, the in this movie you get to see the armor next to people. Sometimes it looks fake, like when Don Cheadle showed up at the base with the Mark II. But when Tony Stark is at his party, it looks real. It looks like, I don't know what they did. I'm sure some of it's CG, some of it's practical, but the armor looks good. One thing I didn't like about the Iron Man armor, all the marks, they still have the same helmet. There's no difference. The Mark V has a different color scheme, and the War Machine looks kind of different. It has like some grooves, and the eyes have a red glow instead of a blue glow. So that was one thing I liked. One thing I didn't like, or I wasn't expecting, I thought Natalie, aka Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow, I thought she was going to have an accent, but she didn't have an accent. She just spoke English. No English accent, no accent. I mean an American accent for whoever lives in the UK. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting in Russia for what was it in Soviet Russia? Street forks you or something. You know, if you know who Yakov Smirnoff is, yeah, you'll get the reference. But that I don't know. I was expecting an accent. I did like the relationship dynamic between Stark and Pepper Potts. It was alright. It kind of reminded me of a girl I know. And let me see. The portrayal of Justin Hammer was well done. Like I mentioned before, you could tell he's a weak guy. I mean, his company. He's the boss of he's the CEO of a company, and he's like, I'll probably get laid. Man, you should be getting laid. And he let Anton Vanko run the show. If he said, like, make me armor, and Anton would be like, no, the robots are good. Okay, whatever. You know, he'd agree. He didn't stand his ground. He was a weak guy. And when he gives his speech, and he's like dancing, he comes out dancing. You could look, I think they show Gwyneth Paltrow, and she's like, no, and there's a lady behind her, like, what a nerd. So that was good. And Don Cheadle did a good job as James Rhodes. Very good job. And what else? Queens is, I guess, the base of Tony Stark, because or the Marvel base, because Hammer's base is in Queens. The Stark Expo is in Queens. So that was good, you know, Flushing. Alright, I would recommend that you guys watch this movie in the movie theater. If you can see it in IMAX, the better. If not, you know, if you're the kind that can wait for a DVD, I'm sure the DVD will be out by the end of the year, maybe earlier. So that was my review. I'm saying go see it. It was good. Thanks for listening. Bye.